Come sail away. Come sail away.
Is that the song of the day?
Yeah, that's the parody thing.
I'm sailing away.
Mm-hmm.
Are we on? Are we live? We are live. Shit.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler episode.
I should pay more attention.
338.
Wow.
Today's topic, we're going to be discussing WordPress page speed. Are you performant? Let's go around real quick and get everyone introduced. Various, you haven't been on in a while.
Yo,
what's up, everybody?
It's been on in very long.
I am the creative director of Field Veracity and run the Inland Empire WordPress meetup group.
Awesome, good to have you on.
Inland Empire in the house.
Glenn, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Glenn Ingram, I own Web Search Pros. We do ADA compliant web design and search engine optimization.
Was it recently your birthday?
No, my daughter's turned 22 a week ago yesterday, and Wedham just flew in town day before yesterday, so we celebrated last night. So in about 23 more years, you get to do that, Say.
Yeah, I'm just going.
How about you, Cosper? Tell us about yourself.
You guys.
Hey everybody, Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg. Just happy to be here talking about WordPress today.
Happy to be here.
Oh man. How about you, Steve?
I am Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup. And I will be speaking at WordCamp Long Beach coming up in 2 weekends. Is it? No, next weekend. The weekend after this one. Wow, it's coming right around.
Golly.
Did you say?
What's that?
Did you say WordCamp Long Beach?
I did.
Long Beach?
LBC.
WordCamp Long Beach. When is that happening? When is that happening, Say?
Next weekend.
Well, I'll just put that in my little intro there. I'm Faye Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Faye Reed Media on all the things. I am also one of the co-organizers for Ye Old WordCamp Long Beach in the house.
Boom.
Can it be a ye old? It's
no.
It's not even
it's
old.
The ye new. It's the
ye new.
It's a brand spanking new.
Ye new WordPress WordCamp next weekend, October 5th and 6th, and tickets still available now, so don't miss out.
Yes.
Lunch is good. After party's great. The top,
both days.
You know, they should be all right. A couple of
both days. You have to come both days.
Yeah.
And I'm Jason Tucker. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do this show as well as another show called WP Blab.
Kind of do this show. Oh.
We lost his audio.
Blab.
Oh,
we lost your audio.
Shut up.
That was weird.
You did. No, you shut up.
No, you did shut up.
Oh, wait, he already did.
No, hey. Am I good now?
Yes, much better. Yes.
Yeah.
Who are you? What's happening?
I'm over at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
Technology's hard.
WPwatercooler.com/WP Blab. That's where you can find the other show that I do over here. And I want to let you know that this show is sponsored by ServerPress, makers of desktop server. Go over to their website over at serverpress.com. I don't know if you're aware of this, but they just recently rolled out a really cool feature with WP Site Sync, where you can actually do site sync stuff, syncing your site, but also doing it with Beaver Builder. So feel free to go take a look at that. It's going to be awesome.
Thing? Pop up the thing.
Where's the overlay?
Give me my overlay. All right. Well, that's not helpful.
There you go. How about that? You don't know, but there's like 500 windows I have to manage on this side of the screen.
There it is.
Oh, dear.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about site speed. Where should we begin with this? What's a good place to start?
Does speed matter?
Cosper, did we introduce you?
This is like that newscast when the guy was at his desk and the little kid came in during the newscast. Can I have a few minutes? I'll be out in a minute. Oh my god! Oh,
is Sam home? Let's Sam run in here real quick.
I gotta get a lock. I gotta get a lock on that door.
That was a little head coming through. It's good.
What was the question? Does site speed matter?
Who are we? What's happening?
Yes, site speed matters. It is now. it is now heavily weighted into your SEO. Google flipped some sort of switch this year where it is. It feels to me like it's the number one thing that factors into your SEO.
I mean, the thing is, though, even if it's not official and the number one factor that they use, it doesn't really matter, because if people fail, then they're not there to track anything anyway. So it might as well be.
And so let's be clear, I'm not talking about necessarily server speed, right? So server speed, I think we're already kind of past that hump, right? Most hosts, if you're on a decent host, the server speed is going to be there, right? Now, if they don't have proper caching, if you're on,
that's your problem.
Yeah. But let's assume you're on a decent host, right? So server speed's not the issue. What we're talking about is page size. Right, so if you size does matter. Yes, size does matter. So if you're looking at one of the main tools I look at when I'm looking at site speed is Google Page Speed Insights. And Google Page Speed Insights. Yeah, I understand. We'll talk about several.
Someone just growl.
Talk about several. Yeah, that was Cosper. I had a feeling he was going to do that. Google Page Speed Insights will give you an analysis of sort of the density of your of the page, right? Really, the amount of HTML, JavaScript resources that you're using on the page, and that's really what we're talking about here.
I think the problem is that everything has just gotten so complicated, and everyone's stuffing so much into every plugin and every page that, like, no, that's not what I'm saying. that it's just like there's just too much stuff.
Yes, there's too much stuff.
You can have the most simple page loading, and there's all this gunk underneath the hood, and you open it up, and you're like, whoa, what is all this stuff that's loading? And like, that's something the user on both ends, the front end user and the usually the site user, are just not even necessarily in control of or aware of.
Aware of, yes, but in control of. They are.
Well, yeah, and if you don't have, like, for instance, if you're having problems with backend stuff of having it just taking forever for it to load up, but then you also have issues where if you have tons of JavaScript and all sorts of stuff painting on the front end, now you have front end issues as well. So
that's what I was talking about. I was talking about, like, okay, yeah, they can optimize their images, but like, if your theme is, got all this stuff jammed in there, and you have all these other plugins that are jamming stuff in, and you're loading like 12 versions of the same file. And
so we've covered a lot, but I want to go back to what Cosper said. Let's talk about, first of all, tools you used.
What he said.
He went.
It was a boo. It was a boo. I said
so boo. What tools do you use, or do you prefer for judging site speed?
As far as judging site speed goes, page speed absolutely is helpful, and Google has a tool called Lighthouse that tends to focus a little more on mobile page speed, but considering that a lot of traffic for sites comes from mobile, and building kind of mobile first is really helpful in a lot of regards. That is kind of where... Oh, look at the nice
look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Jason.
So
can't click on it.
Lighthouse is actually what we use, but Insights. So Insights is kind of a non-developer-y version of that. It's not It's not exact. It's more of a summary, but
and PageSpeed's Insights is actually very helpful and very useful, but and Steve, I know that you've dealt with this, is there are people who treat it like the end-all be-all of what is going on with their site. Oh man, we have a 70 whatever on Insights, and even though our site loads in sub 2 seconds, for whatever reason, PageSpeed Insights is like dinging us on like just a small handful of things. Occasionally it's things that like you can't even control, like okay, so you have some Facebook JavaScript or whatever. Hopefully you don't, but you have some Facebook JavaScript included on your page, and that's slowing things down, and that's harming your page speed score. There are things like that where there's like resources you don't have control over, but I have seen people drive themselves crazy over trying to chase 100% on page speed insights and never getting there.
So let's be realistic. So one thing you said I want to highlight, you said is important, right? So page speed insights will give you 2 tabs, mobile and desktop. You can throw away desktop. It doesn't matter, right? Mobile is really what Google's looking at, right? So mobile
layout. I've like when did this layout change?
Mobile's where it's at, but yes, what Casper said is absolutely right. You're never going to get 100%, or you're never going to get a score of 100, especially on mobile, right? If you're in the 70s, that's decent, right? And so that's about, and if you're getting into the 80s, that's great, right? But you're right. A lot of people get hung up on this, and they'll be in the 50s, 60s, 40s, right? And so it's not everything, but if you're dipping down below 40s and 30s, you probably need to make some changes. Right, and so you kind of want to be in the yellow. If you're in the red, you need to do some work.
So do you just keep changing tools? Do you just keep changing tools so you find one that gives you the best score?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, let's talk about.
This is kind of like the Yoast tool. You know what I mean? It's like people are like just going for that green light, and it's like, okay, but you have to know what it is that you're actually trying to achieve with the tool in order to make it worthwhile. It's not just about make the lights turn green, because you could strip all of your content off the page and have a green light, but that's not going to achieve your goal either.
That's right. So let's talk about some of the things that affect that page speed score. And Say pointed out one of them. The first thing is images, right? And so your images should be optimized, right? Should be as small as possible. But that's not the only factor when it comes to images, right? And so one of the first things you'll see is if you're getting a poor score is defer images, right? That has to do with lazy loading. Right, so it's not just the size of the images, how many images you have, and how you're loading the images. And so, if you're not already lazy loading, that's one of the first things you can do to make that score jump high. And that's one of the main factors when in that PageSpeed Insight score.
Google wants to encourage lazy loading so much that they've added native lazy loading to Chrome. So eventually you won't need to add some bullshit JavaScript library. You actually will just be able to defer the images that you need to to defer. And I mean, that's wonderful. We need Firefox to support that. We need Safari to support that. I mean, Edge will support it because Edge is Chrome now. So
lazy loading is built into
the browsers. Do the work at that point.
Yeah, lazy loading is built into Jetpack.
Lazy loading is what that.
Lazy loading is built into Jetpack. There's another tool. There's another plugin that's it's outdated, but it works really well. Which I hate to say this name on air, but it's BJ Lazy Loading. I don't know who names this crap, but
thank you. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. Actually, I didn't name it. Anyway, so images is one of the first places we go when we get handed a site that's got a low page speed score.
Right.
One of the other main factors is and this is funny that it's Google that's doing the judging and then Google that's causing the problem. So Google Tag Manager is one of the worst offenders for page speed insights, right? So if you put Google Tag Manager in there and start going to town with tags, that speed is going to go in the toilet.
I mean, that's
almost
Google,
immediately.
Parts of Google don't talk to other parts of Google. They're like different countries.
So all those third-party scripts that you're loading to do tracking, analytics, Facebook pixels, all that stuff, all that third-party JavaScript has a big effect on that page speed score.
Respect your users, like honestly, and figure out what you need and what you're trying to accomplish with the metrics that you're doing. There are people who add Google Analytics to their page, that add the Facebook tracking pixel, that don't even have a Facebook presence, but they're like, everybody has a tracking pixel, so let's add a fucking tracking pixel. And you don't need to do that.
That's true. It's true.
Respect your users. Don't funnel their data into some Facebook silo, into some Google silo, just because you want to figure out, like, I got 400 people looking at my site yesterday. It's like, can you do something a little more lightweight? If so, do that.
In addition to Google Analytics and Facebook tracking and all that stuff, I see people then load up the site with things like Hotjar, Chartbeat, all the other. I've inherited sites that have 8 tracking scripts loading on the on every page. right? That will kill your score.
Wow.
Well, and I'm going to give a little bit different insights. I think it's important. I don't think it's that high of a ranking factor, just because anytime Google's telling us something's a ranking factor, you can usually believe that most of it's inaccurate. I mean, they were big on AMP last year, and now they're talking about this a little bit, I think, too much. And the difference I would say is I do care about the desktop, because I think that's going to affect conversion versus your ranking factor. Because if it loads too slow, then we're going to have a poor conversion. So I think they kind of need to work hand in hand, the mobile and the desktop.
All right.
Oh, I'm not saying absolutely ignore the desktop, but you'll usually see a pretty big disparity between desktop and mobile, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the sites I look at, desktop may rank in the 90s, right? Even in the high 90s, where mobile's down in the 50s.
Well, and Google,
but you can still rank high and still have a poor load speed because of your images and everything we just talked about. So you can have a decent ranking and still not going to perform well.
Okay.
But I think Google more and more is focusing on mobile. It's pushing, was that last year? I don't know what year it was, that they basically, if your site's not optimized for mobile or whatever, it's like going to de-rank you for doing mobile searches. So I think Google is moving more and more towards mobile and factoring that in more and more, because that's where people are going with their devices. Like, people aren't buying laptops.
Yeah, mobile first.
I swear to God, I need it like a baby gate or something.
Can you hook up like a shocker to the doorknob?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Those baby gates work until they're 21, and then you're good. So you should be all right.
Yeah, they started April 1st last year, Shay, but we really started seeing the mobile first this summer. And I know I work with some larger clients that we work with individual agents of them, and they didn't take it seriously last year. And literally June this year, all their sites just went, they tanked because they didn't take the mobile seriously.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And so that actually leads to a question that I wanted to ask. In Steve's case, most of his clients, like, you're managing the whole site. Their budget is not so much of an issue. Like, they're like, you handle this, we trust you, whatever. So for folks who are working with lower budget folks, or people who have one project that they built last year or whatever, and going back to that, like, how do you explain something that is so technical like this to the client? Obviously, if they're uploading crappy images or giant images, that's one thing. But like, this technology changes so often that, like, how do you keep coming back to your clients and being like, so Google changed again, and we have to go back and you have to pay us more money.
That's kind of what I say.
You just defined the business model. Thank you.
Yeah, you just summed up every single one of my proposals.
That's part of the entire equation right there.
This is cracking me up though over here.
It's great.
This is like Steve's client coming in and like, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?
Just wait till on the road for camping. Are we there yet?
What I say to my clients is that a good website is never done, right? And there are factors that are outside of our control. Things change, right? And so you have to adapt with the times. I mean, these are things that this is why we do maintenance. I
mean, and we can only present that to them, right? And have them take it or leave it. But like, I feel I end up feeling like I know a website's never done, but like expressing that to the client and coming back to the client and being like, guess what? Not only do you need to, keep asking us questions or pay us to train more people or update and add new things, but also, Google and whatever. So it's this.
The technology and the metrics change, but the principles do not. Right. And so a couple of us have said it on this call, right? It's really about creating a good user experience. Right. And so all these things, while it's things that Google are factoring in, it really comes down to good user experience. I mean, lazy loading is a good thing, because especially on mobile, because it makes for a better user experience. Right. Not having all these tracking scripts is a good thing. One of the other things I was going to mention that factors into Google PageSpeed Insights is fonts. Right, so fonts are heavy, and the more fonts you load up, the heavier your page is. So it's a longer load, and that factors into Google PageSpeed Insights. The last thing I want to mention, and then I will get off of my soapbox, is
stay on the soapbox.
Is page builders, right? And so I'm a huge fan of Beaver Builder. We use it on a lot of our sites. Our clients love it. We love it, right? But page builders in general create dense pages.
They really do, but the clients need them.
They do, and so
Yeah.
it's a balance, right? And so page builders just kill that page speed score. They just do, and it's because they're creating more HTML code and the ability to add more scripts and more fonts and more stuff.
And
right?
and then the clients do add more of those things, and they do add the modules that they're like, let's add this in, and they add a background, and they're like, oh, let's put a background on this section.
Yeah,
They don't optimize that
and video.
Yeah, there's a cost to benefit ratio for page builders that sometimes it doesn't even pay off, you know?
And so, but again, page builder will get you a quick time to market, but there is a cost, right? And so you're absolutely right. And so those are the couple things that I look at when I'm analyzing a site for site speed.
So wait, what do you do for the page builder sites? Like, what's your solution to that? Obviously, like Divi and some of them have like Minify and all that kind of built in.
Yeah,
well, you still have to go through yourself. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you still have to go through yourself and optimize the sites, whether it be your speeds, whether it be your caching and stuff like that. You can still make it to where it is going to load fast enough so you can still rank page builders, these sites with it and stuff like that. So it's a constant balancing act no matter which way you're building it.
I mean, if you look at it, like really 2-3 years from now, like the page builder stuff, like Sorry to Beaver Builder, who I love, all the guys over there, like the block editor, as they move more towards ditching themes and block editoring all the thing, like I, for one, welcome our block editor overlords. Like,
Gutenberg. I like Gutenberg.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like but we're not there yet, and there's always there's this gap, which we were going to talk about the gap. We still got to talk about that gap.
But the block editor alone is not going to solve the page speed issue, right? That's really a theme. No. It's a theme specific thing. So I want to say that so our audience doesn't think just move to Gutenberg and it's solved, right? That's not how it works.
Right.
No, but page builders will be overtaken by the Guten.
Well, I think another thing to help would be to reduce the amount of, this is a basic one, reduce the amount of plugins that you have on your website, especially if they're not active. Sometimes people install a plugin and they don't configure it. They don't even use it. They just think if they install it and activate it, it's working, and it's just loading scripts on their site that they're not even using.
And so how about learning what all your plugins do and don't have Ask Commit and WordFence and 3 different plugins that are doing 90% of the same thing?
That's right.
So back in the day, I'll tell you a quick story from back when I worked in support over at DreamHost. I was a support manager. I trained a lot of the WordPress people over there at the time, and somebody, one of my guys, recommended that a user install a caching plugin, and they gave them a list of W3 Total Cache and Super Cache and a couple other plugins.
Wow, I haven't heard W3 Total Cache in a while.
Yeah, and so what did the user do though? They
installed all
of them.
And activated.
You gotta cache your cache, baby.
More caching equals more speed, dude.
Yeah,
like really cache.
Right.
Stay within more money.
Can we talk for a second, really quick?
Just like more SEO plugins equals more SEO.
Can we talk for a second or the next couple minutes about the whole trend of static sites and where that's going in terms of, obviously, so there was a tweet this morning that went out that I was having a little chit chat back and forth about in terms of Gatsby, and it was actually contrasting a Gatsby load with a WordPress.com load. So it's not, super apples to apples, but like, that's kind of where, again, talking about the developer user gap, but like developers are like, I see Gatsby and headless WordPress. Like they're like moving on to the next phase. And, static sites to most people, we've been like, oh, dynamic sites. And now it's like static sites. And it's like, are we going backwards? Like what is happening? Like this trend of like these static site, what technology
generators.
What's old is new. That's what movable type used to be, right?
Yeah, movable type.
Movable type was happening free WordPress.
Yep.
What I was going to say is one of the new frameworks that we're building in is called Tailwind CSS. Right, we used to build in Foundation. Tailwind CSS is awesome because we're talking about very small amounts of CSS to do lots of stuff, right? And so the pages are very small. In addition, we also work with a system called Purge CSS, right? And so when we create the site or create the theme, we run it through Purge CSS, so it takes out all the stuff we don't need from the library. So the CSS file is very small as well. And so we actually published a theme recently called Wingspan. We have a starter theme for Tailwind CSS. I put it in the show notes. And so we did the same thing a while back for Foundation. When we were working heavily with Foundation, it was called Heisenberg. We did the same thing recently with Tailwind CSS. So for the developers in our audience, I highly recommend you look at this framework if you're looking to create slim pages that do really have an effect on that page speed score, right? So we're seeing a lot better page speed scores with this particular framework than anything we've seen in the past.
Well, I think it'll be interesting
Tailwind
the next year or two. It is really how much Google spends on the optimization and the algos like they've been the last 3 years, when now they're going to be battling Facebook with Yelp, and they're looking at selling GMBs and stuff like that. So how much of it's going to be their focus on SEO versus just trying to take up more page for themselves?
We're also, I just want to comment on Gatsby as well. We're moving the Zeek.com site.
On Gatsby.
I am. We actually did a test. We're moving Zeek.com to Gatsby right now, and we're seeing amazing page speed scores.
Like full Gatsby, like not like headless WordPress with Gatsby, just like all the Gatsby.
And I'm not an expert on it. I'm only commenting on this because I know it's something that Jacob's been working on for us.
Yeah, he was supposed to speak at WordCamp Long Beach, but he is not, unfortunately. I was really excited about this talk.
What happened?
Maybe, I don't know. He
we can talk after. Oh,
maybe he should apply and do the talk at WordCamp Riverside, because I really want to see this talk. Like, so make Jacob apply to WordCamp Riverside, because he had a whole talk about headless WordPress.
Headless WordPress, Gatsby.
You're not even talking about headless. You're just talking about pure Gatsby.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, so I'm only. I'm literally being fed these words in my Slack channel right now. So I'm telling you what Jacob's telling me, because this is stuff that he's been working on in the background, and all I know is I see the results. Right, and we're seeing amazing page speed scores as a result of it. Well,
weren't you just saying, Various, that like Gatsby, was that you? I think you said that like Gatsby just did a huge investment.
Yeah, they raised $150 million, and they're going to be focusing more heavily on WordPress and content management system integrations. So there's an article on WP Tavern.
So that's like kind of almost the best of both worlds, right? Because you can create the user can use the CMS back end of WordPress, and then the front of the site is being served with Gatsby in that kind of static site format, and then you don't necessarily have all of these things that you have to do as much. I don't know if it's just that simple, but it sounds that simple. I don't know enough about Gatsby to super comment really well. This is not Gatsby cooler yet.
No. Right. It's also not the Tailwind cooler or the Google cooler.
No.
No, I mean, it definitely is. I think, using the static site generators with, something like Gatsby, I mean, it makes things a lot faster. I mean, you have less that you're dealing with, you kind of remove the entire front end of WordPress, so.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, WordPress is a fantastic CMS, right?
Yeah.
And so it really, and it's been decoupled for years, the front end and the back end, right? So I think this is a great direction.
Yeah, who cares what's being served on the front end, as long as the user can get the stuff that they need. Like, it doesn't matter if it's being served with WordPress, but I do think it's important that the back end is still WordPress, well, and not the back end, but the user back end. Because, the Gatsby's definitely, from what I've heard and seen, not in a space to be user friendly. So it's not like, the small businesses or the users are swapping over to Gatsby, right? So it's really just I think that's probably why they're doing this investment, right? Because they know they need that user friendly back end in order to make their technology more widespread.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which direction they take it.
And that's about it, folks. I want to say thank you very much for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it. Go over to our website at WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can learn to subscribe to this. And also want to say thank you very much for the folks that have been leaving feedback. We really appreciate it. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/feedback, and you can take a look at that. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye.
Peace.